may have written something before and never shared it with anyone. Well, here's my journey of how I went from writer to author. We're actually gonna go way back to when I was like 3, because that's when actually my stories on paper began, around that time. I started dictating stories to my mom and she would write them down on paper and then I would do the illustrations. And so I was super young, but I was super into stories. Like, it's been something about me for super long. I was always putting conflict into the stories, even from a very young age. I wrote books all the time. I would write words, but they didn't really make a lot of sense, like on the paper. And then when I was older, when I was like 9, 10, I would write things on my laptop. When you read your favorite fiction book and you're like, wow, this writing is so cool. How did this person who wrote this get like this good at writing? It had a start. This person didn't just wake up and be like, oh, I'm gonna write this book. Write. Finishes it in a day. Oh, first draft is the best. Gets a literary agent, goes to a publishing company, and then that's the end. No, that's not how it happens. There's a progression. Kind of like, think of it like if you were an artist and you were starting to get into art stuff, and at the beginning you're like, oh, well, these drawings are pretty good. Well, then years later you look back and you're like, wow, those compared to what I have now, it's so much different. There's so much of a contrast between them. I can't say that those first works were like my best works of art, because they're not. So writing is basically a work of art. It's just a work of art that develops in the mind as the person's reading the story. So it paints a picture in the reader's mind. It also creates emotions for readers. So if they're getting really into a book, they're like, wow, this is so gripping. And then other books are just like, okay, I could quit this anytime. And that's because the work of art is just not doing it for the reader. And so you gotta be careful of that. But at the same time, it's a journey. So now fast forward to when I was 16. I'd seen some of one of the Jason Bourne movies, and so I was kind of like inspired to write about someone like that. So I wrote about this 11-year-old boy who had amnesia, woke up, also could do like self-defense moves. I cut out that part, the self-defense part. He's not really into that anymore. I hadn't even finished the first draft. But then what happened was the story took a different turn. I deleted a chunk of the story and reworked it, and it went in a different direction. And that's the thing about first drafts, they can completely go somewhere else. And so that's what happened. I finished the book, I published it in 2020, and then I was like, I could publish 1 book a year on the same day. So then I published my second book, The Journal is Important, which was the next book in the series. And then the next year, I published another book. Here's the problem though. So I wanted to publish 1 book a year on the same day every year. But if you look on my Amazon page, you'll see that there's like 1 book that's off by like 1 day. How that happened, I'm not exactly sure. I think I submitted it at a weird time. I think that's what happened. It's not a huge deal. It's just something that's like, it's kind of like my 4.9 GPA that I had. Wait, sorry, my 3.9 GPA, not 4.9. That's probably a thing, but like, no, that's not what I... 3.9 GPA, it's like, it's kind of like that. It's like so close. Anyway. So here's my first book right here. This cover right here, I actually did design this, but I did not draw it. I don't really do drawing stuff. This was Canva. Yeah, so this is actually one of the first editions of my book, and you can't buy this anymore. It is updated, revised. It's better online. Second book, you'll see there's a recurring theme. The way it's designed. Canva 2, same font, and back of the layout is like similar to on the back. And then third book, The Rookie Has a Mission. Again, consistency with the book cover, how it's designed. Canva, same font, back of it. This is so thick, by the way, as compared to the other 2 ones. The reason because of that is this one right here got reformatted. If you can see, the text is like super close together, and then this one right here is just shorter, and also text is pretty spaced out, but then this one is like in between. So this one did take a year, and it's like the final chapter of the series. Will I make another book? Probably not. I feel like that's a good place to stop, and that leads me to another subject of when to stop a book series. You have to know when. There's a right time to stop it, and there's a wrong time to stop it. I might do a video on that. If I ever make a video on that, I will link it like here or here. Maybe you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it even like 2%, please hit that like button. And then maybe if you're also interested in stories and like writing and like stories and me making up stories and watching the stories that I make up, yeah, subscribe please.
Subscribe, watch more videos.